Welcome to the I Am Healthy podcast. I am your host, Pam Grace, and this is the number one podcast for all things health, wealth, and ownership. Let's go!
Hey.
Yes, let's get into it. I am so excited always when I'm here speaking with you guys because that means we have something amazing to share. I have a wonderful guest by the name of Dawn Prather. She is a wonderful friend, been a counselor, been a healer for me. And I just want to just invite her to this space because I believe she's an icon living. She is doing wonderful things. And this is a space where we shine light on the people that are really making impact. And she has personally made an impact in my life directly. So without further ado, Dawn, please introduce yourself. Who is Dawn? Who is she?
Oh my gosh. First of all, Pam Grace, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to the I Am Healthy podcast. This is beautiful and wonderful and amazing. And I'm super grateful and just have so much gratitude in this moment for you inviting me. First of all, having this space. Okay, ma'am. We've talked about it before months ago. And here we are, right? And the manifestation of it is amazing, and I'm super excited. So, okay, who is Dawn Prather? Well, I am many things. I'm a mother, I am a wife, I am a minister, I am a teacher, I'm a lot of things to a lot of people. I'm also the founder and facilitator of Beauty for Ashes grief support group. And that's where we met. And that's where I believe that my purpose work is happening, if that makes sense. That is a passion of mine to invite people who are grieving into a space that is conducive for healthy conversation and a healthy space and a safe space for people to grieve out loud and not feel like we have to grieve in a particular way or it's supposed to look a certain way or whatever. But our mission is to make sure that all grieving people know that they are loved and not alone. And that's what I've been doing for the past, 2 years. Mm-hmm. It's been 2 years since we started Beauty for Ashes, and it's been an amazing journey.
Yes. And I can attest to Beauty for Ashes. And so let me tell you how I met Dawn, right? And so yeah. I'm on social media in the midst of the pandemic, and yeah. I started following this beautiful woman named Inyafe. And yes. I was just really like captured by her storytelling and her writing and her artistry. And I almost felt that every time I see a video of hers or see an image or even just read her text, I felt very connected to her or to whatever she was trying to express. Somehow I just felt really connected to it. And one time she made a post and it just said, I think the word just said grief. It just said grief on there. And then it was a caption and it was talking about the support group. So I DM'd her and I was like, hey, and I think we've DM'd before, but this time I was like, hey, I saw this post, really interested in it. Do you mind sharing more information? How can I get involved? And she shared the link and I happened to join the Facebook Beauty for Ashes grief group. And this grief group has been life-changing for me and was really much at the time when I was extremely active in it because I was going to weekly therapy sessions. And then I still needed bi-monthly or, not bi-monthly, every other week.
Yeah.
Group meetings. I think at first it was weekly at one point.
Yeah.
I think first it was weekly. So I was doing weekly grief groups, weekly therapy. I was just trying to get my life together. And it was cool because I was able to focus solely on grief in the grief group, where it was in my therapy private session, I was focusing on other different things. And I realized that I hadn't taken real time to process the grief. And I think by the time I met you, I was at least like 5, 6 years in to
Mhm.
grief, maybe even longer, maybe six, yeah, 5, 6, maybe even 7 years into my grief process or whatever before I met you guys. And I was like my first time really sitting down and unpacking it with other people. Um, and I really enjoyed that safe space. So that is how
Yeah.
I met Dawn. I have met her physically, but initially for months it was only virtually, right? Only
Yeah.
virtually. I had this virtual community and I felt so connected to these people because I shared some things that friends and other people don't even know about me. And I was able to
Yeah.
you held space for me in a very vulnerable moment. You offered grace and support and covering for us, not only myself, but other people that were there. There were times that I wasn't even just speaking, but just being in the presence of other people and hearing other people's stories and how other people are processing or how are we feeling today
Yeah.
about our grief or what is showing up for us. Like that group has changed my life. And I feel like the way I have processing grief now is so different. Um, but it's definitely, I feel like I've definitely progressed a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah, so thank you, Don. And thank you, Nafe, for I hope I'm not
Yeah.
mispronouncing, but Inyafe, thank you so
Yeah.
much for connecting. And that shows the power of social media. That shows the power of like when you need something, it's gonna show up, right? It's almost like there's a quote that says, when a student is ready, the teacher appears, right? And
Yeah.
so I think I was ready to go on that journey and that information was presented to me and I was able to lean in and engage intensively, purposefully. And so thank you so much, Don, for leading that virtual space for all of us who needed to heal,
Yeah.
especially in the midst of pandemic when it got real for everybody, you know?
For everybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely for everybody. And I mean, and speaking to that, like that's how Beauty for Ashes even came about because during the pandemic, I had my own daggone existential crisis. Like I was like I really had um they call it, come to Jesus moments. Like I was like, what am I doing? What is life? Like really I got very introspective and like was really seeking guidance and direction and all of these things. And I was on Clubhouse one day. That's when I was on Clubhouse back then. Like I'm just looking for conversations. Somebody got to be talking about something that I just like you said, like just hungry for. You know what I'm saying? Though the a safe conversation. Like I was needing something, and I was on Clubhouse. I was listening to this conversation in this room, and it was about purpose and um like I got on stage and I like at that point like I wasn't doing that but I felt like led to get on stage and share and I just like poured my heart out. I had got to it was just like how it was almost like a teapot, you know what I'm saying? Like and it's like boiling and boiling and boiling and finally it like sounds off. You know what I'm saying? Like it bubbles over. It's like, nah, it needs to be taken off the heat right now. Like that's how that conversation was for me. And it was like, I just had to get out all these things. And I was just sharing like my journey with grief. And like, I know that it was all for a purpose and all these things. And so I think in the midst of me talking, I said something like, I know I'm supposed to help other people who are grieving. I know I'm supposed to do like because it was a definite what's the word? It was a deficit of that. It was definitely lacking during like when I was deep in deep mourning and grief. And I just felt like there wasn't a space for me to go that I felt seen in. And the moderator was like, well, why don't you start a group? And it
Mhm.
was just like, it's so simple and so like
Mhm.
matter of fact, like the way she said it. So why don't you just start a group? Just
Yeah.
start your, and it was just like, oh, yeah, huh, yeah, like duh.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I can. And it, so I did. And it was just like, it started out on Clubhouse and I moved it to the Facebook platform because I felt like I needed to be able to see the people I'm talking to.
Yeah.
And because we're talking about things that are so intimate and personal and like fragile and delicate, like I want to be able to connect with the people I'm talking to in a particular way. And so we moved it to um Facebook so that we could have the video conversations, and it just became a whole thing. Like I let me just tell you something. The way Beauty for Ashes, you talk about Beauty for Ashes changing your life, the way Beauty for Ashes has changed my life
Mm.
is just, it's indescribable. It's not even measurable at this point right now. Like I can't even say, oh, because this happened, that I know is the direct correlation here. Like I don't even know the effect fully, you know what I'm saying, that Beauty for Ashes has had on me, but it's been tremendous. Like I didn't know what I was doing when I first started, but I just knew I had to start. I just knew I had to start somewhere. I didn't know what kind of format I wanted it to be in. I didn't, and I come from a church background. Everything I do is at church. And so I was like, I don't know, like, okay, should I start like with prayer or something? Like, I don't like,
Mm.
should there be a song? Like, no, but I just, I don't know.
All right. Uh-huh.
But I seriously, like I seriously prayed and was like, okay, what, how should this go? Like, what is the mission for Beauty for Ashes? What am I doing? And God gave me all of it. Like, it's not just like, no, you don't need to pray. It's okay, because this isn't, it's not a religious space. It's,
Yeah.
that's not what it is. It's a space of healing. And I'm very clear on um and believe very deeply that regardless of your faith background or whatever background, like everyone deserves healing. Everyone deserves this information. And regardless of the journey that it took you to get to where you are, like we all need healing, and it comes in many forms. And so I offer this space in love and with, like you said, with grace, because we're already hurting. We don't need more pain, you know what I'm saying? And so that was the journey to Beauty for Ashes. I just started it, girl, and I got little confirmations along the way, like that I was on the right track, and everything just started falling into place, and it became, it like had a life of its own. Like the people would come, and at the beginning, um like you said, it was weekly, and people would come and enjoy the conversation, and then I never saw them again. But over the past, couple of years, we have a tight, solid, like core group of people that I know will be there or shoot me a text like, girl, I got a lot going on right now. I won't be joining tonight, but I love you, blah blah blah, whatever, I'm gonna be at the next one. But our group is so um beautiful and kind and connected in a particular way, because, and I feel like we've all grown to a certain place. Like it's almost like, do you guys even need Beauty for Ashes anymore? I don't, like, I feel like I gained so much from our
Oh,
conversations.
yeah.
Like seriously, I really do like sometimes think and feel like that, like because I've seen the growth. I see like all none of us are really where we were when we first started, and it's beautiful, and it's I love the evolution of what our group has become. And as new people come in, because I get messages, I've gotten messages, especially recently, a lot of people hitting me like, how do I join? Exactly, like what do I do? And okay, like I'm hurting, I know I need this, but I'm a little shy, I don't know, like different things like that. And so as new people come in, I'm really excited to
Yeah.
see where like the evolution of what is going to continue to grow to be. But yeah.
Absolutely. So I want to go back to when you were introducing yourself, you mentioned a lot about your roles and titles. That I'm a mom,
Yeah.
minister, I'm these things. But outside of the titles, like who is Don? Because I think sometimes it gets so wrapped up in
Yeah.
the titles and responsibility that the core of who we are sometimes get lost. But in the space of vulnerability, and because I feel like grief really gets to the core of who you are. You know what I mean? It kind of
Mm.
like,
Oh yeah.
can't even hide behind the makeup and the wraps.
Mm-mm.
Like
Mm-mm.
it gets to the core.
Oh
So
no.
who is like, I guess, Don at the core, independent of the titles, just the soul, or who
Mm.
is becoming, if you have the answer for that.
Sure. Or who am I becoming? I like that because I feel like I'm still growing and evolving, and who I see myself as is a kind, compassionate individual who I just love people. I just want people to be free. I just want people to be whole and healthy, thriving individuals. And I have, I live my life in a particular way so that I am able to be of service
Mm,
um to those who I can be of service to. I know I can't help everybody,
yeah.
um but I strive to give my all when I'm doing something, and when it's been placed on my heart to be of service in a particular way, I do my best
Mhm.
to
Mm,
be of service in in that area. You know, does that make sense?
yes, yes, yes.
Um, so I believe that's who I am. I try to lead with love
Mhm.
in everything I do. Um, and even when I fall short, I recognize it almost immediately when I don't lead with love. I really, really try in every because even if it seems negative, if it's led with love, it's still positive.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like even if it's something in I'm doing something like I need to correct, I'm doing something like correcting or chastising or whatever. If it's in love, it's still positive. It might not feel good. It might have stung a little bit, but it's coming from a place of love. And I really try to lead with love in every aspect. Yeah.
I love that. So speaking about who you are, I would love to know, what's your favorite like childhood memory?
Ooh, okay. Ah, my favorite childhood memory. Mm, breakfast, Christmas mornings.
Mm,
I loved waking up to the smell of my mother cooking breakfast on Christmas mornings. That's, yeah. because we didn't always have a bunch of gifts
Mhm.
under the tree, or girl, even a tree. Let's be for real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, but there was always love. Like
Yeah.
we didn't even know that we didn't have stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like we didn't know we were going without,
Right.
because it was just so much love and warm. Like, so yeah, the smell of breakfast cooking Christmas morning. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And I can just feel that, or just even like smell it or get the idea of why that memory is one of your favorites. Um,
Yeah.
how has faith been? You mentioned you're a minister, but
Yeah.
how, having a strong, um, I guess, spiritual background or relationship with God, but how did you learn about faith, and how has your faith, I guess, supported you in your life? And if you have a moment in which that stands out, like where your faith was like kind of like your bedrock that helped you get out of maybe a challenging time in your life.
Yeah. So how did I learn about faith? By from my mother. Like I grew up in church. Like everybody in my family, I come from a family of ministers. My granddaddy was a pastor, my daddy's a minister, my auntie's a minister, my mom was a minister. Like everybody in my family,
Hmm.
this is it was destined to be okay.
Okay.
But um, all preachers' kids don't necessarily have their own relationship with God, and but my mother was very instrumental in my in that journey. Like we the foundation was laid as a child, but as I got older, she did not shy away from like the hard questions, and she really made our home a safe space for us to, you know, have deep conversations, and like we were really able to explore our faith in a particular way growing up, that I'm not like I can have a conversation with anybody, like regardless. Like I think a lot of Christians, sometimes people, Christians have gotten a bad rap, like, oh, here go these Christians again, like just because, for whatever reason, child, I don't know. But
Yeah.
um but I think it's because, genuinely, I think it's because we are raised, we being Christians sometimes are raised to think and operate as if this is the only way to think or be or whatever. And I understand why, but I believe, fully the word. But I know and I respect that other people have their own journey. And it's not my job to make everybody else a Christian. You know what I'm saying? And now if you ask me,
Yeah.
if you want to know,
Yeah.
girl, we can go down that path. I can tell you. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
I can lead you
Right.
to. I can lead you to the water, but it's not my job to make you want it. You know what I'm saying? That's not my job. That's the work of God. Like that's God leads us on our own paths. It's not my job to make you go this way. But I respect and love everybody and in their walk, in their journey. And I learned that from my mother. She loved everybody. Like, girl, it was always somebody at our house. It was always, you know what I'm saying? We were always taking people in. She was always going, you know, feeding people, going praying for people, like I learned that mentality and that heart posture from my mother. And in my life, my faith, that foundation has gotten me through everything. Losing my mother, in 2008. And then were very distinctive ways. They were different, but still very, very, very traumatic for me in those particular times. And if it had not been for the foundation that I have, girl, I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know, Pam Grace, where, like, how things would have turned out. I was, when my daughter died, I had suicidal ideations. I was homeless after my mother passed. I was out, betrayed and backstabbed by like blood family members. Like, I went through a lot of things after both of those losses. And if it had not been for the Lord who was on my side, I don't know. I cannot say confidently that I would be here today. I really cannot, because I was genuinely, genuinely broken, devastated. I when my daughter died, I lost it. I really did. I had a full blown meltdown. Because see, people forget that you got to go on with life. Like, life keeps happening around you when you're grieving, right? And after the funeral, after all the family had went back to their lives, my husband had to go back to work. I was left at home alone in that house, and I lost it. I lost it. All I could see was her. Her stuff was still everywhere. Pictures, memories. I did not have the strength in and of myself to go another day. I could not. And if it had not been for someone, my godmother at the calling me, and like, she was just calling to ask me something or whatever, and I answered the phone. First of all, I heard the phone. Like, all of it was divine intervention. Because the time that she called me, I was literally sitting in the floor in the middle of the room, just bawling and like really, just really losing it. I really was like, I could not be in that house any longer. It was just, my whole world was just caving in on me. And she called me, and she heard it in my voice. Like, I couldn't even speak for real. Like, I think I said hello, but she was like, "What's going on? What, are you okay?" I said, "No." She said, "I'm calling Jason," out, and hung up. My husband sent my brother-in-law over there. He picked me up and brought me to my mother-in-law's house, and I waited for him to get off of work. And we put the house on the market. I could not, we couldn't live there any longer, just because it was so much. It was so many memories, so many things. But in that, I even thank God for that, because even in putting the house on the market, girl, it was the dead of winter.
Wow.
It was the dead of winter. It was a snowstorm.
Wow.
Even, girl, we put the house on the market. That following week, we had like 7 offers. And nobody saw the house.
Nobody saw the house.
Nobody came and looked. Nobody came and looked at the house. Within a week, we had 7 offers on the house.
Mm.
And we were able to choose the one that best fit our situation and would have been and was the fastest closed. We put the house on the market. We were out of that house in less than a month.
Mm.
Now, in the dead of winter, in December,
Wow.
where did that don't happen? How does nobody but God and nobody, we didn't show the house to anybody.
Wow. They bought it
Sight unseen.
Wow.
Because I had to go. I could not be there any longer.
Yeah.
But that's how God is. He gives us grace and moves miraculously, even in the pain, even in the midst of the hurting, even in the midst of, the grief. It's like he was still there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Man, y'all, if it wasn't for the Lord who was on my side, y'all know y'all can sing that hymn. Y'all hear right now? You can hear it right now. You can hear the organ playing, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for sharing that. And I want us to go a little bit deeper so people can really understand. But, having a faith walk, like you said, your mother laid the foundation, but at some point that foundation had to be tested, and, it's not always tested one time. It's tested in so many different times in so many different ways, but you knew it wasn't by your own might. You said the fact that you heard the phone, because sometimes we could be out of our mind that we're not even to hear what is going on around us. So
exactly,
God gave you the sensitivity in your ears, not only to hear the phone, but to be honest when the question was asked, are you okay? You said
right.
no. And a lot of people are not honest when a question is being asked to you. You might have someone calling your line. You're blocking it. You're not responding. You're not answering, whatever the case may be. Or some may ask you, are you okay? And you'll lie and say, yeah, I'm fine. Or I'm good. And you don't know that you might be truly blocking the blessing. And maybe that person was called on assignment, to make those, because she connected some dots for you. You know what I mean? And got you out of there. Who knows if that call didn't come? And, sometimes things are so sensitive, every moment matters, right? Or every second matters. And the compounding effect of you laying in that house by yourself, it's those sensitive moments. And they always say check on your strong friends. I say check on everybody. You don't know who's
all the friends.
So you don't know who weak, you don't know who putting on, we all need that call. But once you get those calls, know when to pick up and know when to be honest, know when to be honest. Because that might really save your life, or it might give you that support that you need desperately, and sometimes just saying, no, I'm not okay. And sitting in that, and allowing people to support you. You know what I mean? Especially the people that are so used to leading or doing or being a caretaker, and you this superwoman or superman or got it going on, but it's okay to be God. It's okay for someone to care for you and check for you and look out for you. But I want to go on this journey with you. We talked about who is Dawn. I asked you about your favorite childhood memory, but I want to talk about like who you were before grief and like your first grief experience, so if you can remember who you were before grief and your first grief experience.
That's an interesting question, Pam Grace.
Okay.
Because so my very first grief experience, it's funny you asked me that. I've thought about this before. and it's different. Like the first time I went, I remember distinctly the first and my family died, and I went to a funeral, and but that's different from my first grief experience, right? Because I was maybe 12 or somewhere in there when I went to the first funeral. It was my aunt, um, and I knew her, and I have memory of her, but like I like wasn't super close to her, so it didn't impact me the way other deaths in my family impacted me, right? Um, but I've lost grandparents, aunts, uncles, but when I want to say I was 17 when my cousin died, and that impacted me deeply.
Mm.
That one was hard because I thought she was everything. Like she was so gorgeous, like she was so cool, and like she was my big cousin. Like she was the first one like that I saw. Like she graduated college, and she traveled, and like she did all this cool stuff. Like she was an artist. Like she was just everything. Like just gorgeous. And like when she like the world kind of like revolved. Like she was like one of those people, like when you walk into a room and like you see them walk in, and it's like everything kind of just moves around them, like they just kind of have their own orbit. Like she was kind of one of those people, and you felt super special
Yeah.
when you were a part of their orbit. You know what I'm saying? Like she made you just feel as cool as she was.
Yeah.
And when she passed, it was so hard, and made me just really I think I was really depressed after she passed, because it was like she's so young though. I don't get it. Like
Mm.
young people die too. This is whack. This is stupid. Like it was really complicated, a lot of my feelings. She Because it was also um there was addiction there. There was and it was a lot of things swirling around, a lot of circumstances swirling around it that were just like questionable, and like all the things around it were really icky. And so it was really complicated, the that her death. And I saw how it impacted my aunt, and that was really hard too. So the person I was before that, because that was my real first experience with grief, the person I was before that, like I was completely carefree. Like I didn't even like I knew people died because I had been to funerals. Like, you know, I knew it was different because I know people now who have never had a family member die. Like they just lived their whole life and never been to a funeral. And I'm like, you just don't know how fortunate you are. Like, that's amazing. That's beautiful. It's fantastic not to have had to deal with that ever. But I was introduced to it very early. And in a way, I'm glad
Yeah.
that I had that um encounter with death and grief early on, because I've had a very interesting journey with it, like my whole life. every so often somebody was passing, then a grandparent passed, then another grandparent passed, then my aunt passed, then my uncle passed. Like I've had a few things um happen, but I think before my cousin Latrice passed, I was a lot more carefree. I was a lot more oblivious.
Yeah.
Kind of like ignorance is bliss, kind of, Um yeah, I was very much more carefree, but in her passing, I started writing again. I wanted to, because she wrote, and they asked me to, all of the eldest cousins, like, so each one of my father's siblings, all of the eldest of their children, had to speak and say something, and I'm the oldest, so I had to write something to say, and I what I wrote, I was really proud of it. I carried it around with me for months after that, just because it was really that was really pivotal for me in a lot of ways. Like that was the one of the first times I had spoken in front. It was a church full of people, but it was really important to me that I spoke and said something at her funeral too, just because she meant so much to me. Um, but yeah, I think before I had an encounter with grief, child, I was oblivious.
Yeah. And
You
and I
know,
I second that too, because prior to my real encounter with grief, I think I was oblivious too. I was naive. I was just
mhm,
walking around, do, 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 like you said, ignorance
yep,
is bliss, just like jolly, happy go jolly, whatever.
mhm,
Um, no care in the world, just floating, you know,
yeah,
very like floating vibes. But there's something that happens when grief appears in a very personal, intimate way, especially when it's someone that's close to you. Like you said, your cousin, you admired her, you looked up to her, and you probably
yeah,
wasn't even able to process all the things around her grief probably till later on to really
exactly.
understand. But I think that's when you realize that life is real. You know, like there's this
Oh
thing
yeah.
called life and death. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
Sometimes it just sounds like a figure of speech or a theory or this concept or this like abstract thing. But once it's like
yeah.
real, then
Hmm.
and it feels personal, not only it feels, it is. That's when you
Hmm.
really start seeing, oh, okay, oh, this
Yeah.
is real life for real. Like,
Yeah.
like you said, like anybody can get it,
Anybody can get it at
you
any
know,
point,
at any
any day.
at any day, like, and it's
Yes.
about walking the good walk or making the right decisions. Like, none of that thing matters. Like, you can't protect yourself from this. It's only by the grace of God that we're able to experience another day. And sometimes it's the fact that we've experienced so many years or so many days, even though our days are like but a vapor, it's very brief, but even though we're experiencing all these days, we have this illusion that we have forever, or we have this illusion that we'll wake up tomorrow, or um we'll experience this or that. But you spoke earlier about your mom, and you spoke so sweet about your mom. I could tell she is a beautiful woman. And you also spoke about her passing in 2008 briefly, but how, you know because I want to talk about the journey to beauty for ashes, right? And I kind of want to get there. And I know it's around grief, but I want people to really understand how, like, understand your health and how your health, like how you handled your health. Because now it's an organization, and it's a business. But before you were able to process this as a gift, you had to go through it in real life time. As you said, you went through it a lot. And as a woman that has lost her mother, you a woman has lost your mother, like that's a different kind of loss. And then you also mentioned the loss of your child, which is a total different kind of loss. So now you're a mother yourself. So first, you being a child and you losing your mother, um, at what age were you? And, just what was that experience like? And how did you process her absence now, from the physical to now, being in a spiritual realm, like that transition? Like, how did you process that? I guess at that time, and then how have you processed it now? Because it's so many years later, but how have you been able to like live, um, you know?
So at that time,
Yeah.
I so at the time I did not process it healthily.
Yeah.
Um, but even in that, like, and I struggle to even say that because I did. It's strange because I had enough insight and foresight to know, like, okay, we need counseling. Um, we being me and my brothers. Like I said, I'm the oldest, I'm the only girl. And so I have two brothers, and I was like, we need counseling. Like, this woman was our whole world. It
Yeah.
was always Jewel and her kids. You know what I'm saying? And so now our bedrock is gone. Our nucleus is gone. We need help. I don't know what I'm doing. So I know y'all don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I had enough insight and
Mm.
wisdom to know we needed counseling. And I reached out to people and to a family friend, my one of my mother's best friends at the time. She was very close um, to us during that time, and I asked her, like, to recommend somebody for us, and um, she did, and it was a great. It was the wisest thing that I could do
Yeah.
in that time.
Yeah.
And it was the wisest things that it was the wisest thing that I did,
Yeah.
because there were a lot of other things that I did that were not so wise.
Yeah.
And I'm talking just I had very destructive behavior.
Hmm.
And it was only self-destructive. It wasn't destructive to other people or um anything like that, but it was extremely self-destructive. And but through counseling and being honest, like you talked about before, being honest with myself, being honest with my the circle, the very close circle that I had at that time was basically my brothers, a few of my cousins. I was able to, you know, move through it. You know what I'm saying? And I started writing again. I had stopped for a long time, and I started writing. And I'll tell you a story. So it was my birthday. So my mother passed in 2008, September 4th, 2008. We dropped everything, and after the and came went to LA. She was in LA at the time. Went to LA and, dealt with the funeral and stuff. We went back home to came back to Georgia, packed up our apartment, um and drove to LA and decided to move there for my youngest brother, who was actually a senior in high school when she passed. And so, because we felt like he deserved, you know what I'm saying, to finish his senior year where him and my mother decided for him to go, um, he needed the support. So we packed up, me and my middle brother, and moved to LA and helped him get through school and all the things. And my birthday came around and I was sitting, it was maybe, I take that back. It was maybe like a month before my birthday. I was sitting in my auntie's kitchen and I just started writing. It was very like almost like an out of body experience. It wasn't even like sometimes, and I've heard other artists, say this like when they're writing or painting or composing or whatever, that it just kind of comes out of them, not really forced or thought about or coerced, like it just flowed out. And that's literally how it happened. Like the whole poem, I didn't change a line, didn't move anything around. Like it was just like all of it just came out of me. And I worked and like memorized it. And it was like, I want to get this out. Like I want to like perform it. And at the time we were going, like me and my brother would like go to this open mic sometimes, this poetry open mic. And I never like went up or anything like that. I just enjoyed the space and like listening to other poets and whatever. And for my birthday, my cousins, my brother, like everybody, we all um we all went out for my birthday, and that was where we went, right? And so normally what they do is the sign up list is first come first serve, right? That night, so we go in and it's already packed. Like it's like standing room only, people like, sitting on the floor, and like it's super like sitting up on the stage, like it's packed, okay? And we was like, we probably ain't gonna get on, but we signed up anyway. Me, my cousin, I think my brother signed up. And so the host gets up and was like, all right, y'all, tonight we doing something a little different. I'm starting at the bottom of the list tonight. And all of us looked at the dogs like,
not the bottom. I'm not ready. I was trying to warm
up. Girl, I got on stage and it was like my moment. It was like this is it. It was made for TV. It was literally a made for TV moment. It was like, you've been practicing, you got it, it by heart, like the poem that about your mom, like all your emotions, like everything. It was just like, oh, he called my name. I got on stage, girl, and I did it. And like everybody, like and in spaces like that, like you can hear people reacting to your words, and it was just magical. It was magical. And afterwards, this guy came up to me who was like, I'll never get. He was a regular poet that would speak and stuff, and he was like, I really enjoyed your poem. Keep your head up, and like was really encouraging and all this stuff. It almost felt like he had lost his mom too. You know what I'm saying? Like the way, like the energy that he was speaking to me from, like the place that he was speaking to me from, it felt very like, I've been there, like just keep your head up kind of thing. But it was like, it was such a beautiful moment. It really was. But I started writing to just kind of process through the grief. And that was a way for me to like get it out. Like even if it wasn't a poem, like I at that time I bought a journal and I would just write my mom letters.
Okay.
Because you go from talking to somebody like basically every day. Like we were extremely close. She was my like she was my best friend. Like we were really close. Like I was an adult. Like we had like our relationship was like kind of in that phase where like it was kind of transitioning from like motherly like down here like to like we you know what I'm saying, like our relationship was like really evolving and growing, and like it was more like advice giving and just super, but still when I needed it very nurturing, and you know what I'm saying, but it was more like it was growing in a particular way before she passed. And we talked every day, even though she was in LA and I was in Atlanta. We still managed to, even if it was for 5 minutes, on her way somewhere, I'm on my way somewhere, I'm about to go to bed, and she out like, all right, girl, I'm about to do, you know. But we still had, we still made time to, tap in with each other at least once a day. And so going from that to I'm never gonna speak to you again.
Yeah.
It was, like I said, it was completely devastating. It was mind-boggling and earth-shattering. Like I didn't know what I I was lost without her for a while. And writing to her helped me get through that, because it was like, so okay, this is what is happening right now. As even if it was just my day,
Yeah.
I wrote just to get it out, just to still feed the need to speak to her, feed the need to, even if I didn't necessarily get back the response that my heart so desperately desired and longed for, um it was very cathartic getting it out.
Yeah.
And so that's how I processed it, at especially early on. Writing was a very big part of my process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I think, people need to remember um to seek creative outlets in moments of grief, because you mentioned
Yes.
like there was moments where you were self-destructive.
Mm-hmm.
You said that it was only impacting, it was only for you, or you were only, it was self-destructive for you, but also that destruction impacts other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Think about it or not, you're like, oh, okay, I'm just doing this for me, but other people see and feel and experience you
Yeah.
too. And sometimes when we're in those spaces of grief, we're so self-centered in a way, because our
Mm-hmm.
feelings are so real and it's so overwhelming that we
Mm-hmm.
sometimes don't even have the capacity to consider somebody else. But I think it's important for us to know that seeking creativity and seeking ways to play in a healthy way can be
Yeah.
really like can help you process through that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember in our grief session, you read a poem, and I didn't know that you were actually a poet, but you read a poem. Do you remember that poem you read?
I do. I think.
I don't know what it is, 'cause I didn't know that you're an active writer. You've been a writer in the past, or you're a poet.
Mhm.
But I remember that poem being so beautiful. What was that?
So what I read was a response. So you mentioned Inyafe earlier,
Yeah.
and Inyafe is like I write, but like she's a real writer. Like she's a like actual like for real like out in these streets writing. Okay,
Right.
and she has a space um because joy. I want to say is the name of it. And she challenged me in one of our Beauty for Ashes conversations, to write, because something I said like triggered like the question. I don't remember exactly how it came about, but she challenged me to write a piece and she gave me a prompt. Okay. And the prompt was, if the prompt was something like, what, like if your mom could pack you a bag, or if you were packing a bag for the journey grief, like what would she put in it, kind of thing. Yeah.
I don't want to put you on the spot because we didn't talk about this, but it just so happened, and I didn't even know what the prompt was. I just remembered that, and the fact that she just said what the prompt is, as far as like, because we were just talking about your mom, and if your mom was to pack you something, what would it be? I think it would be fitting if the folks can hear this piece.
Okay.
If you are comfortable sharing, I know this is kind of like impromptu.
Nah, it's fine. Yeah, it's cool. So the question. Okay, so I think the conversation was more so around my mom. Like I said something about whatever it was. It doesn't matter. But I think the actual question was, so the space is called Because Joy. Is that what I said before? I don't remember, but that's what it's called. That's what it was called.
Okay.
But the actual question was, if joy were the survival kit or bag that you could pack and take it with you on your journey through grief, what would be packed in this bag if joy could pack a bag? So, okay. So I wrote this piece based on that prompt and our conversation that night around grief. And okay.
I'm so excited, guys.
I can't with you. Okay.
Okay. First ever poetry live on I Am Healthy podcast by yours truly, Dawn Prather. Okay.
Okay. You will need some things on this journey, daughter, she said. She always had her way with words, and her wisdom did not fall to the ground this time. I collected it as it fell from her lips, like the leaves of Georgia trees in autumn, and held tight. There will be days you're going to need some of this. She grabbed the bottle of grace off the shelf and put it in the bag. Remember, don't be so hard on yourself. This ain't no quick thing. It's going to take time, baby. There will be days you can't even move, don't want to get out of bed. And part of you will feel like you're failing, not measuring up. Lies, she smiled. You take this grace out and drink some of it. It'll give you what you need to take a deep breath and tell yourself you're doing the best you can and you can try again tomorrow. She laughed, putting her hand on my cheek. You're going to need it for yourself and others. She is speaking from experience. This was not wisdom gained from a book or handed down from one of her elders. This was firsthand knowledge, lessons learned out of her own loss, mistakes, and missteps. The level of urgency grew, and I feel her worry for me. I'm scared, I say out loud, confirming what we both already knew. She paused, but without looking at me, she says, I know. Just remember the lessons I've taught you all these years. Moving towards me, she placed her hand on my heart. You'll always have me with you here. She continued to collect things to put in the bag. Next was a love blanket. You wrap yourself in this every night. You hear me? Yes, ma'am, I said. Its warmth will comfort you. It's weighted just right to ease the anxiety that will surely come. You will it will remind you that you are stronger than you feel, that you are loved and never alone. The conviction in her eyes cut through me. She needed me to understand something that could only fully be comprehended with experience. She hugged me. In her grasp, she imparted all the things left unspoken. She always gave the best hugs, but the intention with which she hugged me this time was prophetic, as if she could give me everything else I needed through it. Like her arms produced some supernatural shield that made me impervious to all the fiery darts that grief had in store for me. She took a deep breath, released me from her arms, and grabbed me by the shoulders. Looking into my eyes, she said, "There's no more time. You have to go." With tears in her eyes, she parted her halfway smiling lips and gave me her final words. "I know you'll be fine. You are my child after all." Clenching the bag, I began. So many thoughts and feelings flood my mind and body at once. The sound of my feet hitting the pavement brought me back to myself, and I didn't realize I'm still holding the bag in my arms unzipped. I paused. Looking down at the bag, I realized there are 3 other things inside it she didn't tell me about. I kneeled down and pulled them out one by one. A Walkman cassette player, the tape inside marked faith, a handgun, etched on the side, the word truth. And finally, a brown paper bag. Inside were sandwiches, handmade by her, marked hope. I put them back, zip up the bag, and throw it over my shoulder. Standing to my feet, I looked back once more to see her, but she was gone. This is it. I take a deep breath and journey forward.
In honor of your sweet mother, in honor
Yes.
of her spirit, in honor of her transition, in honor of the fact that she's still alive, and the fact that it's September 10th and her anniversary was September 4th. Uh,
Mm,
I just want to give honor to her for
yeah.
you and all of the wonderful things that she has done that still lives, and the fact that she still lives through you. Um, that poem was beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Uh,
Yes. Thank you.
and I think the prompt was really good. If you were able to give anyone who is grieving, maybe a parent right now, or may want to write, what kind of prompt would you offer for them to go into themselves?
Hmm.
Because that prompt came from an honest conversation, and it led to this beautiful, and the way you just described her touching on your heart and your like it's almost like she came alive in the
Yeah.
paper, and it was so honest and real. Girl, it was so perfect. But it was so perfect. But what kind of prompt or exercise? I think this is really beautiful. That someone could listen to this and maybe could use and could sit on something and write something that could heal or at least get them through a moment, a tough moment.
Yeah. You said maybe a parent who's lost a child. Um I would say my prompt to them would be, list all the things you wish you could have done. Um, it's interesting because I spoke I did a piece yesterday at this women's conference, and I did a piece that I wrote um, years ago when my daughter passed, and it always felt like it always felt unfinished. it, even though like it sounded finished, but it within myself, like it felt unfinished. And I was given the opportunity to write something for this conference, and like, girl, it just was not coming. Like I had started and not completed like 15 things, like 15 pieces, and and just could not like get there, if that makes sense. Like it was just like, no, that's not it. No, that's not it. And I remembered this piece, and it was like, okay, let me revisit that. Let me revisit this. And I was able to kind of add to it. But in that piece, I talk about like all the things I wish
Mm.
that I had been able to do. Um, and it was very cathartic to just say it out loud, like to just say all the things that I wanted
Yeah.
for her, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. I can read that one too for you if you like.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
let me find it. Um, because I think that's girl. When you lose a child, like we said before, like it's very different from losing a parent. And so um that would be my prompt. Like list all the things, tell your child all the things you wished for them, you wanted for them, because that's a part of the grief. That's a part of um what you're grieving. You're grieving all the things you wish you could have, all the things you wanted to see them do. And yeah, so this is called Full Circle. There aren't enough collages, pics, words, or songs to post. There wasn't enough time, memories, laughs, hugs and kisses, or bedtime stories. I wanted to see her be a big sister. I wanted to teach her how to be the oldest, how to carry the secrets of her siblings like sweet kisses and delicate flowers, holding them close, how to be there for them no matter what, even when they got on her nerves. I wanted to show her the power she held, the strength she came from, the love that created her. It wasn't enough time. I wanted to teach her how to study the word like mommy taught me, how important how important faith is in this world, how to be a warrior, how to be a worshiper, how to be compassionate and genuine. I wanted her to grow up. I just it wasn't enough time. I wanted to hear a full sentence, a complete thought. I wanted to hear her sing. I wanted to teach her those old songs that mommy taught me. We could have been a duet too. My favorite was My Witness. I wanted to witness her fall in love. I wanted to witness her fall in love. Be there when her heart was broken for the first time so I could school her on these boys. God, it wasn't enough time. I'm struggling with reality. Wishing I had a flux capacitor, I could go back to that morning, to the night before, because I needed more time to be her mommy. Maybe I could save you. Nala, sweet girl, my booby baby, maybe I could save you. Then reality washes over me and like a wave, and I remember that in your time, you saved me. You taught me how to sacrifice, how to love. You already knew how to keep secrets because you kept my biggest secret of all, that I never felt worthy enough to be your mother, but I was so glad that I was. You saved me. You saved us, you saved this family, and no matter how much more time I wanted, you had all the time you needed to spread your love and happiness, to infect so many with your spirit of joy, to remind us all how important today is and how to appreciate the people in our lives, to keep life in perspective, not getting bogged down when things get hard, but finding the good and recognizing and celebrating the small things. Thank you. And now that I'm thinking, you know what? You were already a warrior. My personal warrior princess, praying for mommy when you saw my tears of pain and frustration, warring in the spirit for daddy that his heart wouldn't harden with every smile and sweet hug, with every ever so gentle pat on the back and caress of the cheek, my sweet girl. You were born a worshiper. You came into this world hands raised to the Father, and no matter how much more time I wanted, you had all the time you needed. You had all the time you needed. And now I use my time pouring into your sister. She's a feisty one, that Zoe, my Puda baby, my new beginning, sunshine on a cloudy day, dancing machine. She's amazing. And watching her grow and telling her about you, so until every now and then she tells me she misses you, is love to me. Watching her watch me like I watched my mother is joy to me. Hearing her sing songs I taught her, or even better, the ones she makes up on her own, is peace to me. And it reminds me that sometimes we are afforded these moments that are full circle. Full circle, like the evolution of seasons back to spring, where the pain of loss ebbs and we are able to experience the flow of joy.
Full
Yeah.
circle. Oh, Nala. Uh,
Yes.
honor her as well. We give space
Thank
for her sweet soul and her presence that lives within you and your family and her siblings. Um, I actually have a dear friend of mine that lost her child. But to oh, I'm a mother, and girl, I wouldn't want to think those,
Yeah.
because child. But I know that it's the worst pain. I know it's the worst pain ever. Cause ain't nothing like, the bear child. It's a life and death experience almost, and
Yeah.
who we were passes on, and then who we are is here, and these two new people. The mom is new, the baby's new, the
Yeah.
practice and all the things. Um, and you in those 9 months, you are thinking about the life that you're going to have with this child, whether
Yeah.
the child was planned or not, like the child is here. So you come to this point of acceptance, and then you come to this point of like joy and celebration. And then you thinking, you know what I mean? Sometimes
Yeah.
you're thinking like next week, but then sometimes your mind may go to like, man, I can't wait till they go to get to this milestone. I can't wait
Yeah.
to this. I can't wait
All
to
the things.
that. And so for that to have to be cut short, and the
Yeah.
pain at whatever time, whether it's just a few months, a few years, and whether they're a teen, whether
Yeah.
they're an older adult, but they still pass before you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like this idea of like, okay, the parents gonna go first versus the
Mm-hmm.
grandparents, then the parents, then the kid. Like we got this like order of how things should happen, and when
Yeah.
it happen out of order, it just doesn't feel right, or
Mm-hmm.
feels wrong. Um, for anyone that is processing the unexpected loss of their child, um, what do you say to the woman and what do you say to the man? Because I feel like a lot of times, sometimes the husband or the father or can sometimes be alienated from that grief.
Mm-hmm.
Even though their experience is still real, I don't know, sometimes they always have that support or language or someone giving them space to grieve because the woman is so deep in their grief. You know what I mean? And so how,
Absolutely.
how would you what would be your words or your counsel for that?
So for the mother, I would say that even though it feels unbearable and nothing makes sense in right now in that space, nothing makes sense. Nothing is funny, nothing is okay. Eat, why? For what? Why am I eating? Sleep, why? For what? Why am I sleeping? I have nightmares when I go to sleep. All I see is my child's face. I don't want to go to sleep. I
Yeah.
don't want, like, it's painful to be awake. It's painful to be asleep. It's painful physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, just angry and frustrated and all the emotions. My words would be, it's okay. It's okay to feel all the things you're feeling. You're not crazy. You're not alone. And it's important to not take um don't take on what other people how other people think you should be responding to this, because it they didn't lose your child, you lost your child. And it's important that you find your own way to get through this grief. Go through the journey, because grief will still be there. We cannot ignore her. Like, grief is going to be there. Okay. And it's very important. It's vital and necessary that it is acknowledged and it is dealt with. Um, and it's important, but it's extremely important that you find your own path through your grief. If it's laying in the floor, if it's crying every day, if it's not getting out of bed for a month, after you lose a child, like, it's a piece of you. There is a piece of you missing. There is a hole. Like, you have to come back to reality. Like, and even though the reality is painful, even though it's excruciating to be there, you have to keep moving. Just put one foot in front of the other. It's going to be okay. Find support. I went to someone suggested to me an angel. That's exactly what she is. She is an angel. Dr. Joyce Levitt. She was my daughter's pediatrician, her first pediatrician. She then very soon, uh, right before she passed, actually, like a few months before she passed, Dr. Levitt retired. But when she heard about her passing, she got in contact with me that same day. I don't even know how this lady did this. I don't even know how she got this message to me, how she even knew, but she suggested this group called Compassionate Friends, and they have chapters all over, and it's a grief support group just for parents who have lost a child. And it was a good first step for me, just to be able to be in a space with other people who were dealing with the same particular grief that I was dealing with, and to put language to the feelings that I was having and the thoughts that I was having, and like all of the things that were swirling around inside of me. Hearing other people um give context and give language, like I said, like it was very profound for me. And it was almost like it gave me hope, you know what I mean? That okay, I can get through this. I'm not just some anomaly. Like these thoughts I'm having, the mind frame that I'm in, all of these things are natural reactions, natural human reactions to losing a child like this, right? And so my counsel, my advice to someone who has to parents who have lost their child is, first of all, you have to own your grief. And you have to do it the way that what makes sense for you. For the first like month, me and my husband like were almost inseparable. And we um found a counselor. We did the compassionate friends group. It was too much for him, but like I said, it was just right for me. And but we found a one-on-one in-person counselor that we started going to, and it was a process because the first person that we went to was not for us, but we kept going and tried someone else, and we found what worked for us. But it's really important for people to, when it comes to the parents of uh, who have lost a child, to it can either, a counselor told us this, losing a child will either bring you closer together or will rip you apart.
Mm-hmm. I believe that.
And yeah, and as soon as they said it I was like, absolutely, I can see how it would do both without a shadow of a doubt. But you have to make the decision that I can't do this without you. And that's where we were in it. And I would say specifically to the husband or to the father of the child, make sure that you're um taking care of yourself so that you can effectively be there for the mother, so that you can be strong enough to help her process her grief also. And I almost want to say it's important for you both individually to have, you're both individually going to have your own journey, right? But it's beautiful when you have your own journeys, your own grief journeys, because as a father, losing his daughter is something, or his son is something totally different from a mother losing her daughter or son, right? Those are two different paths, and it's really important to honor that and not say, okay, well, we both have to do it this way, because that's not true. And it's not fair. It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't honor the type of parent that you were. It wouldn't honor the love that you had individually and inside things that you had individually with your child. So it's important to have your own grief journeys, but because, especially if you're married, especially if you are a couple, if you are partners in relationship, it's really important to have something special that for both of you. Like, so you have your own grief journeys, but you also have your grief journey together. And my husband and I think, have done an okay job with making sure that this like this part is taking, like we are doing our own grief work, but also we do things together. Like we honor her on her days together. We have made it a thing, a family thing, because we now have other children. So we make it a family thing to honor her and remember her um, in our own way as a family. And I'm sorry, and we do it because we know how important it is to carry on that her memory. And it was really important for us when we had children after losing her, because I was pregnant with my oldest son now when we lost her. So we made the decision very early on to that we were going to tell them about her, discuss ways of remembering her, still celebrate her birthday, still all the things, and have made her memory a part of our family dynamic. And so I think it's really important for the unit to um, come together in that way. But that's the advice that I would give.
I love that. I love that. So few more questions as we conclude here, but I hope you guys are, there's so much to Dawn's story, and you guys have to join Beauty for Ashes if you want to learn more, and if you want to explore your grief maybe in a different kind of way. Maybe you've seen therapists, maybe you've been in different groups. This journey is ever evolving, and so if you feel like you need a different type of space or need to be in a different environment, like I wanted to grieve with Black folks, so I was really excited to not only have like people that were age, like in my age range, that was women of color. Like that was really, really important for me because I wanted to know that I wasn't by myself in this space, in this grieving experience, And so depending on whatever you're looking for, what you need, make sure that you find and actively seek those communities that you're looking for. And so there's so much to share, but I really appreciate Dawn speaking to the parents that may be grieving a child, that you may have your independent journey, but also coming together as a unit to heal together as a family, to memorialize and to celebrate the life that and the spirit that still lives on, right? And the impression that your children have left in your life. The mark is ever itched. You know what I mean? The impact, is ever there, right? And so, you know, definitely find ways to creatively do that. And so, Dawn, what has been your greatest life lesson?
Wow. Okay.
I know.
My greatest life lesson. Jeez, Pam Grace. Um, hmm. My greatest life lesson is probably, I'm gonna say it's find the good. Um, when my mom passed, we being my brothers, my siblings, we were doing something. We were on our way somewhere. And it was just a bad day. Like we was having a bad day. It was terrible. I don't even remember everything that happened that day, but it was like nothing was going right that day. And my brother said something, and it was just like something rose up in me. It was like, nah, man, we not doing that. This ain't how we gon' we can't go out like this. No, we're gonna find the good. And that's how we gotta move. We cannot be bogged down like this. I know, it was a bad day. I know, but we not gonna let's find the good. We gonna see her. We gonna think about something good that happened today, okay? Because we can't end the day like this. Like it was that bad, okay? And I took that. I never forgot that because it was like regardless of all the bad things, it could be bad, but there's always some good.
Yeah.
Like, let's focus on that. Let's
So,
focus on the good because life is too short, and and I'd rather think about something good
yeah.
to get me to the next thing and to give me hope, give me strength, give me, enough joy and peace to get to the next moment. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's all we have is enough strength to just make it to the next moment. And sometimes we don't even have that. So let's find the good to focus on so we can get to that. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, find the good.
Find the good. That is so profound. Find the good. So beautiful. And when you were speaking, I thought about light and seek or find the light or seek the light. Because I remember listening to a sermon from T.D. Jakes one time, and he, regardless of how dark the room is, if there's a little bit of light, you're gonna see that. Like you're going to see that, no matter how dark, that little bit of light. And so if you can focus on that little bit of light, that finding the good, I'm telling you, like, that is going to be your hope. That is going to be like what gives you strength, like you said, to go to that next moment. It's that light. It's that good. It is because when you fixate on it, the light expands. Light is expansive. You know what I mean? And so it might appear small, but it's really big. It's really, really big. So I love that. Find the good. Find the good. Seek the light. All that good stuff. Okay. Few more here. So, what is your ultimate life goal?
My ultimate life goal is to fulfill purpose. Um, and whatever that looks like. Right now, it's being the best mom I can be and being the best wife and grief advocate that I can be through Beauty for Ashes. And even that is evolving and growing. I don't know what my ultimate life goal is. Like what I because we don't know. Like, and the goal I have for myself might be too small. Like, I don't know what God has for me. You know what I'm saying? But ultimately, all I want is to fulfill purpose, to fulfill what I'm placed here to do. And I'll be happy with that.
Perfect. What is a quote that you live by?
Hmm. A quote that I live by.
Or
I think I said it before. It's just leading with love.
reading with love.
Um, yeah, I think that I would say that. Just lead with love.
Okay. Um, what do you want to be remembered for?
Hmm. So it's funny you asked me that. So I mentioned that my mother's anniversary was the anniversary of her passing was on the 4th. And I was telling my brothers when we have our group call, I was telling them like that I was really thinking about what just about like legacy and like what what we're remembered for and things like that, right? And I realized that as long as I'm remembered for love and um, being a good mom, like I'm okay with that. Like I just want my kids to remember me fondly the way we remember our mom. You know what I'm saying? Like I want them to have, good memories. And even when I messed up, I want them to be able to remember like she was able like she would mess up, but she would apologize.
Mm,
She wasn't afraid of apologizing when she made a mistake, or she treated us with respect even though we were just kids, and she listened.
yeah.
She made me feel special. And like I want my kids to be able to have that legacy of relationship with me. You know what I'm saying? If that's all I'm remembered for in this earth, I'm okay with that.
That's a job well done for you.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so we have this part, have we close out, is kind of like finishing the sentence. And so um, I'll start the phrase and you can finish. So
Okay.
I am,
Strong.
I will,
Hmm. I will overcome.
I can,
I can. Hmm. Do anything.
okay. And I know for sure,
Hmm. I know for sure that hmm, I know for sure that when we lead with love and let our light shine, the world becomes a better place.
awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
I absolutely love, love, love that. So that's really it. That concludes our segment of grief and owning your grief and just life. What are you working on? What are you working on? Is
So I am always working on Beauty for Ashes. I come to realize that I am Beauty for Ashes. It's not really it's not just a support group or um what it has evolved into, but I am Beauty for Ashes everywhere I go. um I was just talking to somebody at work, giving her resources and letting her know, like, listen, I've been there, I understand. Anytime you want to talk, like, i I am this. I am this.
yeah,
I'm not doing it. I am it.
wow,
And
yeah,
um, so the more work that I do, even on myself, um, healing my own healing and grief process is all works together for the evolution and growth of Beauty for Ashes and what it is going to become. I'm working on being more available for things like this.
Yes.
Talking about Beauty for Ashes, talking about grief, my own grief journey, speaking. Like I said, I was a part of a conference yesterday. Like, I'm saying yes to more things because I know, like you said, like I said before, just purpose work is just really important to me right now, and not being governed or dictated by necessarily just the hustle and grind of things, um, the day to day, 9 to 5, just, rat race, but stepping away and like saying, okay, purpose work is important too. And um, putting effort and intention behind that is rewarding and powerful and meaningful and impactful and necessary. And so, yeah, I'm working on myself because I am Beauty for Ashes.
Beauty for Ashes.
Yes.
So since you put it out there, you are saying yes to opportunities.
Yeah.
Um, to advocate or speak on grief or discuss. You're just open, and you're a poet, you're a writer. So there's so many ways that people can utilize your talents, your gifts, your purpose.
Yeah.
And it's going to unfold so beautifully. So, guys, how can people reach out to you, Don, if they want to connect, if they want to connect to Grief for Ashes? Because I know that some of us who have been in there, like you said, we have evolved, but there's some new people that want to experience and need and looking and can't find uh,
Yes.
things. And so, how can they access you, whether it's a corporate organization or a nonprofit, or if it's an individual that is seeking your services or your support?
Yeah. So, um, Beauty for Ashes Grief Support Group is on Facebook. Beauty for Ashes Grief Support is on Instagram. And my personal Instagram page is Nala's Mom. And you can find me there
Yes.
at Beauty for Ashes is where it is. Yeah. Let
And
me find.
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Hold on 1 second. Let me give you the exact ad for Instagram because I think there's an underscore in there somewhere.
Okay, absolutely. And I'm gonna when this launches, I will add all her contact information. So I'm just saying this. I just want her to say it so you guys can hear from her. But all her information will be accessible on all the podcast outlets, YouTube. So you will be able to find Dawn for sure. Um, but as she's pulling that up, I wanted to say something around grief as well. September 22nd is my mom's birthday. And this year, December 26th, will make it her 8th year. But around this time, late August, early September of 2015, a few months before she passed, we had did a trip to Kenya, a family trip to Kenya. And I've been getting like Facebook notifications when they do like the memory reminders and, oh, this was 8 years ago. And I'm like, man,
Mm.
I cannot believe that I've lived 8 years, coming without my mom. Like, that's wild. Like, how?
Yeah.
How did I live and experience life this long without someone so important to me? And so as we're talking about grief, I just want to, it's been an honor to speak with you about it. Also, like I said, because my mom's birthday is coming up, she would have on the 22nd, she would have been 61. So she passed away
Wow.
at the age of 53. So very, very young in age, I guess.
Mhm.
But as we said, anybody can see the end, at any time. But nonetheless, I wanted to say this. I wanted to say my grief journey has not been linear. I think I got so busy with the things, with life and the business of grief. There's a whole business of grief.
Absolutely.
So getting thrusted into the business of grief, and then getting thrusted into her business, her personal affairs, or her other business that she had
Mhm.
going on, that I delayed my active grieving process. I
Yeah.
didn't seek therapy. No one told me about therapy. No one paid for me to go see. No one, everybody kind of like came and dipped. I felt
Mhm.
like everybody was gone and I was deserted and I was just left to fend for myself. And so I feel like I cling to relationships, or I would cling to just wanting someone to be around, or even if that it wasn't even like loving. It wasn't even like I saw you
Mhm. Yeah.
going somewhere with me. I just thought it was just probably like comfort or whatever. But that worker bee mentality, that busy bee mentality, sometimes it puts you in a space of like zombie zone. I'm just going through the motions. I'm just moving. I
Mhm.
remember one time saying like I woke up out of my life and I felt like a hurricane had just came through. And I woke up and I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
where all this mess come from? The house
Yeah.
tore down and stuff all over. Like, who gonna clean this up? And what
Mhm.
it was the fact that I was so absent. Uh,
Yes.
I was so absent from my life that I wasn't even aware of what was and wasn't happening. I was
Mhm.
tending to everything else outside of tending to myself.
Yeah.
And what happened and what angered me a bit is the time went by. Not just 6 months, not just a
Yeah.
year, but years of my 20s went by where I
Yeah.
was in my body.
Mhm.
And so the relationships that I was having, or the experience I was having, it wasn't really authentic. It wasn't real.
Right.
And I feel like if you're not careful, grief can rob you of time.
Oh yeah.
And
Absolutely.
you have to be mindful that grief is a course of life, and we're not educated on how to process that. We're just thrusted into it. And I think that's sometimes a little bit harmful because we don't have the tools sometimes to navigate or prepare. And even if you have the tools, I think it's still going to be tough. But I think it's a little, you can navigate the waters a little bit better, I guess, even if you have the toolbox or whatever. But
Yeah.
I was so angry when I woke up and I tapped into my life, and that I missed some years of my life.
Mhm.
And I'm like, yo, I could have been doing this. I could have been doing that. I could have been living. I could have been experiencing, even while grief is present, but I could have been healing and living and
Yeah.
doing and experiencing joy and doing the things versus being a zombie, like out of my body, out of my mind, just a shell of myself. And
Yeah.
and even though I was accomplishing success or accomplishing things or finishing things, there was nothing here. It,
Mhm.
and so I just want to encourage people. Um, Grief is going to be a journey, a life journey. And once you experience grief once, you're going to experience it again if you're blessed to continue to live, at
Yeah.
that age. And what I can say is go through it. Don't
Yes.
avoid it. Don't let because time is precious. Don't let life pass, so much time pass, in which
Yeah.
you put it to the side. And then years go by. I'm talking about 5, 6, 7 years. And now, I went from my 20s to like my 30s, and I'm like, oh, dang. And then I'm trying to like, oh, snap, I got to do some stuff in my life. I want to go to school. Oh, I want to do this. Oh, my son is older. He was just 6. How is he? So I missed my son's life, and I felt like I wasn't tapped into my baby. And then now he's older, and I'm like, I don't have time. Oh my gosh. Like, I stopped taking pictures of my child. We used to do like annual pictures, like all the cool little like joyful things that I did
Yeah.
in my motherhood stuff stopped. You know,
Yeah.
like a lot of things stopped. The things that
Mhm.
were Pam Grace centered, the things that were for me, the me
Yeah.
thing stopped, you know. And so I encourage everybody actively seek support. You can go in
Yeah.
and out of support, but don't stop. Um, don't delay the process because you will have to go through it.
Mhm.
And so don't delay the process. Go through the process, but still allow yourself to experience joy. Allow
Mm.
yourself to love. Allow yourself to be intimate with yourself, with others. You know, allow
Mhm.
yourself to be vulnerable. Allow yourself to enjoy success, or to travel,
Yeah.
or to enjoy your children, or to, because sometimes what happens is when you're grieving, you feel you're not allowed to experience.
Allowed. Yeah. Mhm.
You feel almost like wrong for
Mhm.
experiencing, and that is a level of self-harm that
Yeah.
is toxic. And then we're going to keep doing that over and over, and before you know, you done beat yourself down to the ground. And so
Yeah.
it's the way, it's the reality where both truths can be real, where the grief can be really real and you can be sad about the loss, or
Mhm.
you
Two
know,
things can be true.
but the two things can be true, and it's okay
Yeah.
to hold both of those spaces at the same time.
Time. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And so that would be my biggest encouragement, guys, because I woke up and I was pissed at me, and then I got pissed at my mama. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, wait a minute, shorty, you can't, how you
Well,
gonna
how
put
you
me
leave?
on my
Yeah.
life?
Right.
So now I wanted to fight everybody. So now I'm here. I'm like, everybody can get these hands, because what we're not going to do is waste the little bit of time that God has given me. And I don't know how long my lifespan is going to be, but let me enjoy. So please, guys,
Yeah.
lean into joy, lean into resources. Is there any books that you recommend as we're closing? Do you have any books or anything that you think will be good? If not, it's okay. I don't have any. All I know, I know there was two books that I really enjoyed that I remember. I remember Return, and I don't know if this is a grief book, but this is a book that I like. Returning to Love by Marianne Williamson, and I really like the book Trust by Ayan Levinzan.
Mhm.
Those are
Okay.
two books that kind of helped me, but I don't know if they helped me through grieving, but they just kind of helped me kind of connect with me, and loving me and trusting life a bit. So
Well, I have this book right here I can share. Um, so this book, I'm pretty sure I've shared it on the
mm,
in our group. Grief is Love,
yeah.
by Marissa Renee Lee, and she talks about a few different types of losses that she's experienced in her life, and giving yourself permission to um, feel, to love, to have grace, to all the things, like just, and I love this, the way that she, speaks honestly about her grief process. But it really resonated when I received it. It was a gift. It resonated with me because it was a lot of things that we talk about in Beauty for Ashes. We've talked about multiple times, giving ourselves permission to just be, giving ourselves permission to feel the pain, giving ourselves permission to be angry, give ourselves permission to laugh, have joy, give yourself permission, like whatever. It's okay. Like, it's okay to experience all of those things, even while you're grieving,
Absolutely.
even while you're grieving, especially while you're grieving, because um you're still here. You're
Absolutely.
still here. So yeah, and thank you for sharing that about your grief process, because the funny thing is I recently had one of those moments too, like, man, I just completely, like, a part of myself was completely just turned off, like, completely.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? For like 10 years.
That part. Uh-huh.
Like completely numb, completely like just like put to the side. Um, but yeah, I just recently had one of those moments. Um, and you're absolutely right. Grief does definitely rob us if we allow grief to rob us. It doesn't have to rob us. But when we ignore grief, that's how she be robbing us. Because
That's
she is
yeah.
uh yeah, she one of them ones. Like, no, she gonna get hers, okay?
That
She
part.
she gonna be right here. She'll be right here waiting, like, you ignoring me? Oh, okay. That's
Right.
fine. That's fine. But I'm gonna still be right here. Still gonna be right here, and I'm gonna pop up on you when you least expect it.
Exactly. Exactly. So
So you might as well just deal with me.
that part, because it's at the end
I'm
of
not
the
going
day,
anywhere.
yeah, at the end of the day, it's intended to grow you. But I think that was the biggest thing is when you realize that time is the greatest, is one of the greatest currency. You know, our health is one of the greatest currency as well. But it's like we can't get that back. We can't get that
Right.
time back. We can't
No.
get none of that back. And so we need to make sure that we check grief. We experience it, but don't let that thing, because what it will do is it'll turn into the enemy, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like against you, you know what I'm saying? And against your life and against all the fruitfulness that you have. You know what I mean? So address it, you know, tend to it if you need to, whatever the case may be. It's not going anywhere. It's almost like the weeds, you know, tend to it, you know, go around, go into your garden. Okay,
Yeah.
I see what's going on. Okay, let me pull up these weeds. Let
Mm,
me take care of myself a little bit. Let me, you know, let me take care of my hurts or whatever. Let me not
yeah.
let this thing go crazy before I start killing all the blessings that's in my life or that's in my
Yeah.
garden. Right. And
Yeah.
so that's what we have to do. But Don, do you mind closing us out? You usually close us out really nicely when we do our it don't have to be long, but you always say like one or two words of uh like to go away with. Do you mind like giving us the to
The,
go
the
away?
beauty for ashes.
Yeah, just
Beauty for ashes. Benediction. Okay, so so well, first of all, thank you so much, Pam Grace, for allowing me in this space and to share a piece of myself with you and with um, this beautiful space that you've created. I'm super proud of you, and I'm Healthy podcast. And I think that it would be befitting to just say that it's important for us all to, in our grief journey, in our healing journey, to make sure that we are healthy in all areas of our life. And health is not just physically, you know, knowing your numbers, knowing where, you know, what your blood pressure is, what your, you know, all of that is super important and vital and necessary, and we should be responsible for that also. But also it's really important and vital and necessary to make sure that our emotional health, our mental health, spiritual health, all of those things are in alignment. All of those things are where they should be. You know what I'm saying? Let's work on all of our health all the way around. But yeah, that's what I would say. And I want everybody to know that at the end of the day, you are loved, you are never alone, and find your find your community, find your tribe, because I promise you that whatever you're going through, whatever you're dealing with, whatever experiences or trauma that you have had in your life, there's someone who can speak to it and can encourage you through it and tell you, oh, yeah, I've been there. This is how I got through it. This is what I did. And I hope that Beauty for Ashes continues to be that for people who are grieving. And I hope that I Am Healthy podcast becomes that for people who are looking for their healing journey. And I just give you so much grace and love and blessings for this journey that you're on right now with I Am Healthy podcast. I know it's the sky is the limit.
Sky is the limit, guys. This is it. Thank you so much, Dawn, for gracing us with your presence. As I said before, you're an icon. You're a beautiful woman. Your path, your stories, your experiences are not in vain. You know, everything is in purpose. Everything is in divine timing.
Yeah.
As we were speaking the other day, our time is now. You know, it's our, God has been hiding us and working with us, but our time is now. We're ready. We're ready to speak. We're ready to share. We're ready to do. We're ready to impact. We're ready to move in purpose. And so I encourage you um, to own that and just know that you have done a great work thus far. You have supported my healing. And so I am so thankful for you and for Beauty for Ashes. And guys, thank you so much as well for tuning in to I Am Healthy. I wish you all the best, guys. Remember, health is wealth. Health is your greatest currency. So invest in that, protect that, and nurture that. Have a good one. That's it. We are done. That is the end. I kept